Over the years, I've come to know Ralph on a personal basis, and I must admit, he never fails to inspire me. His all-abiding passion for social justice and for creating a true democracy by and for the people is consistent, and it is compelling. Too often criticized for being the messenger of bad news, the optimism implicit in his vision receives insufficient coverage. So too is this reality. Ralph Nader is one of America's great patriots. Now, as some of you may know, I've had the privilege, or perhaps the misfortune, to be fictionalized in his latest book. Only the super rich can save us. No, I'm not at all like the person that bears my name in Ralph's far-fetched story. But the fact that he respects my interest in social justice is reason enough to thank him. So I will. Thank you, Ralph, for all you've done to make this world a better place. Thank you for dreaming. Thank you for dreaming impossible dreams and for concocting improbable schemes. Thank you for keeping alive the notion that rebellion and democracy are interconnected concepts. You can't have one without the other. And I must say, thank you finally for greasing the wheels of our capitalist system by helping us sell so many million books. Ralph Nader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Riggio, for those words. And all the philanthropy, a lot of people don't know that he's backed a lot of good works like Children's Defense Fund and Lapham's Quarterly. He's getting more people to read too, which is exactly what we need to do. This book is about correcting a massive mismatch between the public sentiment and the kind of justice that needs to reign in this country and the concentrated power in the hands of the few over the many. And the title comes from an episode early in the book when Warren Buffett, these are all the 17 Meliorists, as I call them, the 17 billionaires and mega millionaires, are all real people. I'll get to in a moment. The leader is Warren Buffett. Here's how he got started. He's sitting in his living room in Omaha watching the aftermath of Katrina in September 2005. And day one, day two, day three, people fleeing, desperate, no food, medicine, shelter, going onto the highways, floating corpses bobbing in the water, helicopters all over the place, but a paralysis of federal, state, and local government in terms of rescue and sustenance. And he can't believe what he's seen. And on the fourth day, he gets a whole convoy of supplies and takes them down to help people on the sides of the roads, tents and food, drinking water. He comes upon an extended family with a little fire trying to cook something. And he's helping one after another with the public health workers by his side. And a grandmother grabs his hands, looks him in the eye, and cries out, "Only the super rich can save us." And that haunts him all the way to Omaha in his car. Only the super rich. How can this grandmother, how can this poor person with her extended family say that to me? What does that mean? And he has this epiphany moment, and he says, I know exactly what I have to do. And he gets 16 mega millionaires and billionaires, real people like George Soros and Peter Lewis and Ted Turner and Bill Cosby and Yoko Ono and Phil Donahue and William Gates Sr. And Max Palevsky, Ross Perot, Bernie Rappaport, Joe Jamel. All of these bring something to this composite strategy, and they vowed that they're going to operate as if it's the last year of their lives. So there's not going to be any delay. And they meet in Maui in January '06 in a hotel in Maui on top of a mountain that he rented. And they planned the comprehensive strategy. Now, in this book, people will say, well, you can never get a citizen mobilization relying on the super rich. Well, for the most part, that's true. But not all super rich are the same. So I researched these people's biography, their statements, etc., and I put them together in a way where they were pre-selected by Buffett in the fiction. They were pre-selected, so they had a general view of where this country should go domestically for long overdue improvements, many of which are already operating in Western Europe and Canada, and how to get there, top-down, bottom-up mobilization. Some people think this is a rather new idea, but the history of the Civil Rights Movement shows that there were millions of dollars put in to help the people on the ground fighting against discrimination and exclusion by rich people. The Curry family, the Stern family, in the 50s and 60s were very critical in funding a lot of these efforts, because fighting for justice costs money. There are expenses. There are organizers to pay. There's transportation. There's notices. There's recruitment. There's defending against lawsuits, etc. And back in the abolition days, it's the same thing. Bostonian people of means helped fund the abolition movement against slavery. And women of means helped fund the women's suffrage movement. So there is a precedent here. But what we haven't realized, we got to take this justice movement to a new level of intensity. And I thought the fictional approach was the best way to liberate our imagination. Because when you read this book, it's very realistic. Once you accept the predicate of 17 of these people who are willing to put billions of dollars in, who are willing to get to the mass media, who are willing to go to every district back home in Congress and mobilize Congress watchdogs, who are willing to organize consumers, workers, taxpayers, zeroing in on Congress in a climactic battle in the latter part of the book. So each one of those 17 were assigned different roles in a very complex, nuanced drive that got more and more publicity. They asked themselves, how do we get millions of emails fast? So they developed a contest urging people to tell them how would they improve the country or their community. Let's get their ideas. Well, that's not a very exciting thing on an ad. So what they used is a macaw parrot, which they called Patriotic Polly. They put the parrot at the beginning of these ads all over the country, and they had the money to pay for it. And the parrot kept saying, "Get up, don't let America down. Get up, don't let America down." And 13 million emails started flowing in to this. Because this animal became, this very colorful parrot, became a symbol. And you know, every newscast has to have an animal story, right? These are big guys going after big guys, for once. And for once, you know, our side, so to speak, had the means, the strategy, the persistence, the stamina, the speed, the surprise to get this going. It's my answer to Ayn Rand. It's got a lot of the lessons from losses. It's very important. The lessons you learn from losses in order to bounce back and be resilient. And we don't do enough of that. And we've got to do a lot more. I learn a lot from people I disagree with. First of all, they get me angry. Second of all, I find, you know, sometimes we have an overlap. Last thing I just wanted to say is that this book will be misunderstood, which makes it more controversial. And to the extent that it's misunderstood, maybe it will get us more introspective in terms of how to use all the assets of our society and not preclude them by some ideological rigidities without compromising our principles of justice. We have a website.